Hey, how are you doing? I think you must understand that I'm Japanese very soon at the moment you listen to my talk in English, if you are from the country where people speak English. So I strongly feel there is clear difference in the way of using English words and English expressions generated by the difference in people's sense of values and the way of thinking when people from English-speaking countries and others from not English-speaking countries. So it's like that expression is grammatically correct, but we don't use it that way. So I'm clearly aware of this kind of situation when I watch a Japanese anime work by myself. So I sometimes translate the Japanese words and Japanese expressions spoken by anime characters from Japanese into English in my head while I watch Japanese anime work to know how different it is between what English voice actors actually express in English, that version of Japanese anime work, and what I actually translated in my head into English while I watched the Japanese original version of anime work. So that's totally different. That's totally different. It is not exaggerated to say that every single English word and English expression that I imagined in my head while I watched the original version of Japanese anime work didn't appear in the English dubbed version of Japanese anime work. So that was really shocking. That was really shocking. In the first place, how they think about things is totally different from ours, fundamentally. For example, when I watched Steins Gate, which is one of the representative Japanese anime works, episode 2, Steins Gate episode 2, there was a scene that Okabe, who is one of the characters in this anime work, asked to Mayuri. Mayuri is also one of the representative female characters in this anime work if she heard girls' screaming voice at the stairwell of the radio building. In the original version of this anime work, she answers like, "No, I didn't hear that kind of voice at all. No, I didn't hear any voice at all in the building." This is almost perfect literal translation from Japanese into English. But in English dubbed version of this anime, she answered like that'll be the kind of thing to stick out. That'll be the kind of things to stick out. So what she wanted to say with this expression is like, if a girl's screaming voice was big enough, everybody in the building was supposed to realize it. So the fact that nobody in the building realized it means that there was no screaming voice that was big enough to make people realize in the building back then. So in short, what she meant by this expression was like, I didn't hear that voice. I didn't hear any voice, any screaming voice, simply as a result. So from the viewpoint of Japanese, so I can never come up with the kind of expression, no matter how witty I try to find a reasonable English expressions that correspond to the Japanese original expressions, right? So of course, I know when an anime related company translate the original Japanese words from Japanese into English, it grabs the general meaning and use English expression that English speaking people can be familiar with. But no matter how many times I try to translate Japanese anime work, what I translate have never ever, never ever matched closely what English dubbed version of Japanese anime work actually expressed in English in anime work. So it's like what I translated was neither near nor far from what English dubbed version of anime work actually expressed in English in anime work. So one thing that I was realized when I watched English dubbed version of Japanese anime work was that how English speaking people see things is really different from how we Japanese see things. So I haven't overcome this point yet. And sometimes I think it cannot be helped, but I have to accept this point because I think it is almost impossible to bridge the gap. So I live in Japan. So my viewpoint and my way of thinking are totally swayed by the Japanese way of thinking. Typical Japanese way of thinking. So if you are Japanese, you might understand what I'm talking about smoothly without hesitation, because English words and English expression that I choose to use are in accordance with Japanese viewpoint, so that it is easy for any Japanese people to translate what I'm talking about in English, right? So same thing also happens in English. Happens to English speaking people. So when I talk to a native English speaker in Japanese, when I talk to a native English speaker in Japanese, there's so many times I don't understand what he or she is talking about during the conversation. But when I replace his or her Japanese words, Japanese words and Japanese expressions for English ones, and apply these expressions to English grammar, I can somehow understand what he or she is trying to talk about. This is because English-speaking people speaks Japanese with their unique way of thinking that they have ever cultivated in their country. So maybe I live in the country where people speak English. Things will change as I can somehow get accustomed to Western people's way of thinking. But no matter how hard I make effort to try to change my perspective, I can't see things as English-speaking people see things.